You wake up each morning feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders, a crushing, invisible force that seems to suffocate you before your feet even touch the ground. The pain isn't just physical, it's deeper, more insidious, an emotional and mental weight that drags you down into the abyss. There's no escaping it. The reality of your life is a cruel, unrelenting truth that you can't outrun. You've been trying for so long to survive, to make sense of the chaos that seems to be your only constant. But every time you think you found a way out, something pulls you back in. The world around you feels like it's slowly closing in. The people you once loved, the relationships you thought were stable, everything is slipping through your fingers like sand. You've lost touch with so many people, but not because you wanted to. No, it's because the distance between you and the world grows wider with each passing day. You see people achieving things you once dreamed of, building lives you thought you would have by now. And yet, here you are, stuck in the same place, the same cycle, the same day, repeating itself, over and over. You've worked hard for everything you've tried to build, but no matter how much you give, you never seem to get anything back. It's like you're trapped in a hamster wheel, running as fast as you can, but always staying in the same spot. The shame you carry has become a part of you. You've failed in ways that feel too heavy to even begin unpacking. You were supposed to be better by now. You were supposed to be successful, to have your shit together, to be the person you promised yourself you'd become. Instead, you're stuck, drowning in a pool of self-doubt, regret, and bitterness. Every mistake you've made is branded into your mind, constantly reminding you that you're not enough. The failures mount, and each one feels like a nail in the coffin of your hopes. You try to tell yourself that it'll get better, that things will change. But deep down, you know it's a lie. You've been telling yourself that for years, and it hasn't worked yet. You try to focus on what you can control, but it feels like the harder you try, the more everything spirals out of control. Your job is draining, relationships are strained, and your mental health is hanging by a thread. No one really sees it. No one really understands what you're going through. Everyone looks at you and sees someone who's just going through a rough patch, someone who's just a little down or burned out, but they don't see the full weight of what you're carrying. They don't know how much it costs you just to get out of bed each morning. The exhaustion sets in, not just from the lack of sleep, but from the mental and emotional toll of trying to keep everything together. You don't know how long you can keep pretending. You put on a face for the world, a mask of normalcy, while inside you're unraveling. Each conversation feels like a performance. Each moment with your friends or family, a reminder that you're living a lie. You smile, you nod. But deep down you're screaming. You don't know how much longer you can keep this up. You don't know how much longer you can hold on to this fragile version of yourself. And then it happens. The moment you feared most, the one you tried to outrun for so long, it finds you. Cancer. That word that everyone dreads. The word that makes your stomach turn and your heart stop. You don't know how to process it. You thought you were prepared for the worst, but nothing prepares you for the reality of hearing that diagnosis. The doctor's voice becomes a distant hum, and everything goes silent in your mind as the weight of the words sink in. Cancer. It feels like a death sentence, not just for your body, but for your soul. It's a relentless reminder of how fragile life really is. You've spent so many years fighting, pushing against the world, trying to build a life that made sense. But now, you realize that none of it mattered. The job, the money, the status. None of it matters when you're staring down the barrel of something that can't be outrun. You thought you were in control, but cancer, like every other force in your life, reminds you that you're powerless. You go through the motions, the doctor's appointments, the endless tests, the sleepless nights spent wondering how much time you have left. Every scan, every needle prick, Every treatment feels like an intrusion into your already fragile existence. The pain isn't just in your body, it's in your mind. The endless questions, the terrifying uncertainty. Will you make it through? What if you don't? What if the fight you've been preparing for your whole life ends here, with nothing but unanswered questions and lost chances? The chemo treatments begin, and the toll on your body is unlike anything you've experienced before. You thought you were exhausted before, but this is something entirely different. The fatigue hits you like a wall, draining everything from you, leaving you a hollow shell of the person you once were. Your hair falls out, your body weakens, and you lose a sense of who you even are anymore. You look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back at you. The person who was once strong, once determined. Now you see someone broken, someone who is fighting a war they never signed up for. You think about everything you've lost. The years you spent running from yourself, the opportunities that slipped through your fingers, the relationships you never nurtured. It's like a mirror reflecting everything you could have been, should have been, but never were. And the worst part? The worst part isn't even the treatments, the pain, the fear. It's the loneliness. Because despite everything, no one truly understands what you're going through. Not your family, not your friends, not the people who say they care. They'll never understand what it's like to be in this battle alone. To face your mortality head on, while the world keeps turning, as if nothing has changed. You try to reach out, but the words never come. How do you explain what's inside? How do you make people see the weight you're carrying when you can barely carry it yourself? But in the silence, in the solitude, something shifts. The pain, the fear, the overwhelming sense of powerlessness, it all comes together into one brutal truth. You've been fighting the wrong fight. You've been battling against the wrong things. It's not the world, not the cancer, not the job, or the people who have let you down. It's you. You've been running from yourself for so long, drowning in self-doubt, self-loathing, and regret, that you've never even realized the strength you had within you. You've always been stronger than you thought. You've always had the resilience, the courage, the power to face the worst life has thrown at you, but you didn't know how to use it. You've been letting your pain define you, your mistakes, your failures, your fear. But what if, just what if, you could learn to use it? What if this battle with cancer, this ultimate fight for survival, could be the catalyst for change? What if, in facing the inevitability of your own death, you could finally begin to live? You begin to see it, not as a death sentence, but as a rebirth. The fight is still the same, but this time, you decide to fight differently. You stop running from the pain and start confronting it. Every treatment becomes an opportunity to push past the fear, the weakness, the self-doubt. Every painful moment becomes a reminder that you are still here, still fighting, still alive. And then something incredible happens. You begin to heal, not just physically, but emotionally. You begin to accept your past, your failures, your flaws. You realize that the fight was never about avoiding pain, but about learning how to move through it. You stop waiting for the world to change and start changing yourself. You become the person you always wished you could be, not because you've escaped your pain, but because you've learned how to carry it with grace, strength, and purpose. But even as you begin to heal, the reality of the world never stops. You are still living in a system that doesn't care, a world that's cold and indifferent. But now, you're not fighting it. You've learned that the most important battle is the one inside yourself. And whether you win or lose in the end, you know one thing for sure. You fought, and that is enough.